Hello friends, welcome to Multiverse on our channel. This is a live stream, so you can also provide your comments live on this show. And today we will discuss about the strange phenomena that recently has been discovered in Jupiter. What that phenomena is, let's find out. Friends, as we know, Jupiter is a really large planet. It's one of the biggest planet that you can find in our universe. In fact, in our solar system, this is the biggest planet, and it is a planet, not a star. Even though the constitution of Jupiter is very similar to a star, that means it is made of hydrogen, helium largely. Since it is a very large planet, it has a major influence on the surrounding solar system. In fact, Jupiter gravity is so large that it also tugs the sun as a body. So it influenced sun, it influenced a lot of other planets, it influenced lot of other things which are floating around like asteroids and comet in our solar system. So it is a very large planet, so to speak, and being a large planet, it is also showing the signs of lot of atmospheric activity. So this has been surprising fact for a very long time, that Jupiter is so far off. Even though it is large, it is very far off, and it gets only 4% of the sunlight as compared to what Earth get. So the assumption was that atmosphere of the Jupiter will be very cold, and on an average the temperature that we assume is should be around minus 70 to minus 80 degrees, and that low temperature is not responsible for creating these weather patterns that we see on the surface of the Jupiter, or in the atmosphere of the Jupiter. Now there has to be a heat, there has to be some heat source, because as we know that the weather is driven largely by the hot and cold differences, and it should be the same thing on Jupiter. So if the temperature as per our calculation is so low, then what is driving the atmosphere and churning the whole atmosphere, creating these whirlpools which are constantly moving? That means there is some other force in play. So since this is a large planet, and it has a lot of mass in it, and it also has a lot of gravity. So because of this internal pressure which the gravity exert, there is a heat generation that happens when inside the core of the Jupiter as a planet. So as you dive down into the Jupiter, you will actually keep encountering more and more pressure, with temperature keep rising, and the estimate is that it is like few thousand kelvins at the core. So it gets really hot, and all this temperature is because of the crushing pressure which is being created by the mass of the large planet like Jupiter. And however, on the surface where the atmosphere of Jupiter is, this heat is not responsible for all the weather that you see on the surface of Jupiter, and mostly this kind of weather will be driven by the sun. But sun is very far off, and sun is so far off that it does not send enough radiation to create some sort of heat on the surface. So what is driving all these weather patterns? That is a big mystery. And so scientists have now figured out that Jupiter, being very large in nature, is also creating a lot of magnetism. I mean, the magnetosphere of Jupiter is so big, it has a major influence in terms of all its satellite, about 80 satellites, and all the nearby neighborhood. So much so that scientists says that uh, humans cannot visit Jupiter because it will then influence the atoms of the human body, and probably it will disintegrate. So the magnetic radiation, as we speak, is very very high, and because of this magnetic radiation, the sun energetic particle like ions are captured and they are diverted down on the poles in the form of very powerful auroras. On Earth also we see this phenomena in the North Pole and South Pole, but the Jupiter magnetic field is many times more powerful than the Earth magnetic field. So the aurora itself, as you can see in this picture, are many times the size of the planet Earth itself. These are huge auroras, and now the scientists have found that these auroras are actually creating some sort of a temperature variation, and this temperature, they heat up the atmosphere on the poles, and in fact the temperature on the poles is about 700 degrees compared to that on the equator and Jupiter. So these auroras basically create the temperature difference, and this temperature basically drives the weather pattern that you see, the beautiful pattern that you see on the surface of the Jupiter. Now this is something which is understanding of the scientist, and how this understanding came to be. Basically there was a understanding in terms of how electromagnetic field heats the surrounding, pretty much like what I'm trying to show you in this picture, that electromagnetism basically creates a heat pattern which we use in our daily life. We use it in microwave, we use it in heating elements, and we also use it in so many other different ways. So electromagnetism can be used to generate heat, and in fact it is one of the byproducts of the electric magnetic field. So we already know that if there are auroras, huge auroras on the poles of the Jupiter, these ions will create electromagnetic effect on the poles, and the temperature will rise. And that is why when we look at Jupiter and measure the temperature on the surface of the Jupiter, which is the atmosphere, the poles are giving reading of about 700 degrees centigrade, and equator is giving reading of about 300 degrees centigrade, which is very very hot. I mean, it is like hot, boiling hot, very very hot. So all this is happening because of the auroras and the very strong magnetic field on Jupiter. Now how this finding came to be, basically this has been observed when the initially humans started to unravel the mysteries of the sun. We found that the sun surface is about 5500 degrees. It's not very hot compared to the core of the sun. However, the atmosphere of the sun is millions of degrees centigrade, and that was a surprise because the surface of the sun was 5500 degrees centigrade, and the immediate vicinity, which is called corona, as you can see in this picture, the surrounding is heated up to millions of degrees. So that was a fact which was observed in nature and was baffled science and physicists for almost 2 to 3 decades, until unless they actually incorporated the electromagnetism into the equation and they got the answer. So sun, just like Jupiter, is also a much larger, much bigger magnet. In fact, sun has these magnetic loops that you might have seen on several pictures, which are trillions of kilometers long, and then they break apart. That create the solar storm. So these magnetic loops which are found on the surface of the sun are responsible for heating up the atmosphere, which we call as sun's corona, to millions of degrees centigrade, and that is the phenomena which is being observed on the Jupiter also. And this is another picture where the heat is taken up, and the particle energy, the ions which are emitting from sun surface, or the light also, is getting trapped into this magnetic field, because this magnetism is very, very high, very strong. And when they get caught in these magnetic field, the temperature increases, and the electromagnetic equation explain how much temperature rise can be expected. And on sun it is millions of degrees, but on Jupiter it is about 700 degrees, because obviously Jupiter is a planet, it's not a star, it is not running any fusion reactor at the core. It's a very large planet, and that explains that even though Jupiter is so far off, and it hardly gets any sun influence, unlike Earth. Earth is very close by to sun compared to Jupiter, and in spite of that, Jupiter shows signs of lot of heat. So it's really a hot planet, and even though it's so far off, it's really hot. And I think this is a very good understanding that we have today about Jupiter. And I think the same processes may be driving the weather system on other gaseous giants, which are Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, and also similar planets in other solar systems that we have been seeing, exoplanets that we have been seeing. So this is something which is very, very logical and very groundbreaking, and I thought I will talk about it today in our live stream, which is talking about happenings in the space-time nearby or even far off. So friends, as you know that we come live with these scientific principles every day, Monday to Friday. If you have any comments, any suggestions, feel free to send in your comments, or better would be to join me live at this time every day. I'm live at 12 noon India time with these scientific and happenings in space-time. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow. Please take care. Bye bye for today.